Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Punk for the Homeless ongoing eclectic virtual music gig. And it's with a lot of pleasure today that we have Scott Albrecht with us. Would you like to introduce yourself, Scott?
Hi, Alan, and hello, everyone out there. My name's Scott Albrecht, and the first thing you'll notice is that I'm an American, but it's not something I'm proud of. Just happens to be I was born there, but I've been living in the UK since 1980. I came here, I was sent here by the US Air Force because foolishly I joined the Air Force, and that was pretty much because I didn't have any job prospects. I wasn't too bright at school, and I came from a very broken family. So I joined the US military in 1980, was sent to England, became a Christian while I was in the military, and went to my commanding officer and said I was a marksman, I refused to kill, I refused to work with nuclear weapons, I refused to work on F-111 fighter bombers, and so
that's
I wouldn't be willing to kill anyone, so they took me off the flight line.
That's a massive step to take. What was it that drove you to come to that conclusion? What had you seen? Is it things you'd seen, experienced?
I think it was in the 1970s, we grew up with the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, that if we had enough nukes and Russia had enough nukes, we'd be at loggerheads, but we'd never use them. And we were always taught that the Russians were evil and communist and dictators, and they were taking over the world and so on. And so I bought into that doctrine. And not only myself, but four of my mates joined up with me, and we were quite ready, to defend our country, as it were. And then when I had this kind of religious experience with Jesus, I like to say I was formally taught the doctrine of mutually assured destruction until I was taught the doctrine of love your enemies. And as I started reading the New Testament, I started realizing, that Jesus was talking about the Russians, whomever, the Chinese, whoever we were told by our government was our enemy. We were actually to love those people. And I thought, you can't love them and point nukes at them.
No.
And so it just seemed to me to be a big contradiction to the teachings of Jesus.
And how did the Air Force take your decision? Were they helpful?
It's funny. I think if it happened today, let's say with the invasion of Iraq or Afghanistan, I would have been in prison, but as a conscientious objector. But at the time, I think they were quite merciful to me. I had top secret clearance. They took that away. They demoted me. They took a stripe away. They lowered my pay, and they put me in the snack bar. So I was selling, hamburgers and hot dogs to the other airmen at that time. So it wasn't too bad.
Better to be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, if it came down to it and they said, get out of the snack bar, take up your weapons and fight, I would have refused. And then I would have suffered a greater consequence, I'm sure.
Oh, good man. Very, very, very brave decision. And where did you go when you left the Air Force?
Well, I worked in America for a while. I went back in 1984 until 1982, and I managed a shoe store. It sounds a bit cheesy, but I was a shoe dog for years, and worked my way up to become manager. But it was a kind of prestigious shoe store. Oprah Winfrey used to shop there, and the mayor of Chicago, and the Chicago Bulls basketball team. And I was making a good salary. I was making in 1984, mid 80s, early 90s, I was making about $50,000 a year, which was very good money. And I bought a nice house, had a 2-car garage, and was sort of settled. But then I kept reading, again, turning back to the Gospels, reading about the rich young man. And Jesus says, sell everything you have and follow me. And I thought, I'm like the rich young man. I mean, I wasn't rich. I was just kind of working class, becoming kind of lower middle class. But
Yeah.
I knew that I wasn't, that we're not designed to work for profitable industries and to support capitalism. And so eventually, that was kind of another turning point where I felt that I should be living in a community. And I came back to England in '92. My father was British. I'd already kind of had 4 years living here, and met my wife and had my children while I was living here. And so I moved back to the UK, and I was looking for communities. And then I came across the Catholic Worker.
And could you tell us a little bit about that? What is the Catholic Worker? Because some of us won't know.
Yeah, the Catholic Worker was started in the 1930s during the Depression in New York by a woman named Dorothy Day and a Frenchman named Peter Morin. And they said they wanted to explode the dynamite of Catholic social teaching, which in every aspect of Catholic social teaching, and you can see this with Pope Francis, is in contradistinction to every aspect of capitalism and globalization and you know, sorry, I've got the Hoover going in the background now.
That's okay, life must go on.
Give me a second. Can you give me a second? Can I stop for a second? Or is that?
I'm afraid we're keeping rolling, I'm afraid.
Okay,
we don't have the
sorry about
luxury of editing software.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm a bit dyslexic or something. Not dyslexic, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, so the Catholic Worker was trying to explode the dynamite of Catholic social teaching and creating small communities where people made decisions for themselves rather than decisions being made for them. And they were trying to build something new in the shell of the old, so that when the old, that is capitalism, starts disintegrating, there's something there underneath it that can kind of come through to the surface. And so one of the things that they believe, and we believe very strongly, is community. And the other is resistance to the state and to the kind of state ideologies.
So that would be very new to a lot of people listening, I think, or a lot of people watching, that a spiritual-based community are asking you to resist.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. It's exactly what I like about it, because often the resistance communities aren't spiritual, and the spiritual communities aren't resisting. And so to find a home where both are being done was a wonderful thing to me. And I suppose, yeah, there were a lot of things in the buildup of my, throughout my life that made me sort of seek that kind of way of being as well. So I was reading a lot of Franciscan material, and St. Francis was a contemplative, but he was also active. So he would spend 6 months in his in a hermitage, and then he'd spend 6 months going out preaching and confronting evil injustices. Like he went to, during the Crusades, he went to Egypt, and he spoke to the Sultan at the time and was trying to make peace between the Muslims and the Christian crusaders during the Crusades. And yeah, and the gospel teaches, blessed are the peacemakers. They shall be called the sons and daughters of God. So I always thought that it wasn't just about spirituality, it was about putting your faith into action.
Okay. Well, let's go on a slightly different track now. And can I ask you to introduce your first music selection, your first choice?
Yeah, sure. I love David Bowie.
Okay.
And and I chose the song Teenage Wildlife because I think it exhibits his range. And I don't know a lot about music, but yeah, I guess people sing in different octaves. And in this song, his voice is kind of all over the place and beautiful. And also I think the guitar riffs are good, and it's a good teenage kick-ass song. So that's it. David Bowie, Teenage Wildlife.
Okay, folks, we'll check that one out in the link while you're watching this interview. So let's come crashing right up to date. Let's just pour in there. And what is it you're doing at the moment? Where are you now?
Well, just to go back a little bit, in 2000, we started the London Catholic Worker. And in the early 2000s, from 2000 to 2006, we were throwing ourselves against the state. We were protesting against the invasion of Iraq, the sanctions against Iraq, the invasion of Afghanistan, and selling weapons to East Timor or to the Indonesians so they could commit genocide against the East Timorese. So we were really, really up against it. We were being arrested over and over and over again. So I was in prison. I've been in jail about a dozen times. I have 4 criminal records. And yeah, and that's part of the Catholic worker tradition. That's the resistance aspect. But what we lacked was a house of hospitality where we could do community. And in 2006, we were able to rent this farmhouse, which is where I'm at right now, where I'm speaking to you from. And from 2006 until the present moment, 14 years later, 2020, we have been able to accommodate refugees or asylum seekers. They're not refugees yet until they get refugee status, but they're asylum seekers. Also trafficked women, women escaping domestic violence, escaping female genital mutilation, honor-based killings, and the like. So we've had about 500 or over 500 women and children stay with us since 2006. And normally we would have about between 18 and 20 staying with us at 2 different houses. So, you know, today I wake up and I have porridge with some of these women, and, you know, we natter and stuff, and just live together in community. For me, it would be a little harder to live together in a normal Christian community, because I investigated those, you know, where Christians are living together kind of and forming a community. For me, it's always been about, you know, like, what is your mission as well? Like, what is your purpose as a community? Is it just being together with people who maybe don't drink, don't smoke, and don't swear? Or is it, you know, are you actively engaging with, you know, the state? And are you helping those that the state has trashed? So
it's a marvelous job you're doing. I was privileged to be there at the anarchist weekend, the Catholic anarchist weekend, and I met you, and I met some of the ladies there, and it was a fantastic place, full of peace and full of care. It was lovely to be there. And you have a festival, don't you? I guess that's not running this year.
No, because of this horrible coronavirus.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of our difficulties, is that at that festival, our plan was to try and make about 10,000 pounds this year. And last year, fortunately, we made 9,000, which is the best we've ever done. And it's not a big festival. It's kind of small, but it's very comfortable and people enjoy it. And so we're probably going to have to cancel that. That's going to be, was due to be at the end of August, but we'll see.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. And tell us about your second choice of music, Scott.
Well, my second choice is The Cure, Just Like Heaven. And I love Robert Smith's voice again, you know. I love the guitar riffs in Just Like Heaven. I love the layering. I love the percussions. The drums are powerful. And if you were to strip away each layer of the music and just listen to the individual parts, you know, the percussion or the synths or the bass or the you know, the lead guitar and the second guitar, each one of those, just as components, are really, really beautiful. And the video's good too. So
yeah,
if you watch
Cure.
the video, that too, yeah.
Yeah, The Cure. What a career! What a career they had.
Yeah, 40 years. I just saw them in Hyde Park last year, I think it was.
And I feel they're a band that have always kind of maintained their integrity to their music.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, they
it was hard, you know. I have to tell you, Alan, because I was, you know, I know this is punk for the homeless, but I was kind of back in the day. I was kind of a goth / punk. I was kind of into Killing Joke, but Echo and the Bunnymen, The Cure, Joy Division, New Order, all that stuff. And what was disappointing, and I'm sure you saw it too, Theater of Hate, remember them?
Yeah.
You probably saw it too, which was, you know, you listen to The Cure. The first Cure song I ever heard was probably A Forest. And
Yes.
I was like, wow, it just blew me away. But, you know, 3 years later, they're on Top of the Pops playing Love Cats. And you're thinking, what happened? So
Well,
say
evolution.
that, yeah. So I like the darker side of The Cure mostly, but I can do a little Love Cats here and there.
Excellent. And how are you coping with the coronavirus? What's it like there for you?
It's difficult. My wife and I both have a lung condition,
Oh, I'm
which,
sorry to hear that.
yeah, so if we were to catch it, it could be quite bad for us. We've been in lockdown for about 3 weeks now, and we're grateful. If I can give a shout out to Ange, we're grateful to her for her to come out here and support us while we were in lockdown. My wife and I were in lockdown, but now the whole community's in lockdown, and we can't allow anybody in or out. We gave a choice to the women. You know, if you leave, you can leave. It's not a prison, you know, but you can't come back because you can't bring the virus back into the community. If you did, there'd be at least 3 or 4 of us, which would be severely, you know, hurt by it.
Compromised.
Yeah. I also want to give a shout out to Eagle and Rachel for supporting us over the years. They've been donating money every month for years to help support our work. So I wanted to say thank you to them too.
Oh, that's lovely to hear. And so let's hear your last choice then, Scott.
Okay, my last choice is moving a little towards more modern music, I guess. It's by Akira the Don, and he does this. I don't remember what he calls it, like wave trance music or something like this. And there's a lot of verbal sampling in it, and I think the messages in a lot of Akira the Don's music is quite good. And this particular song is called Good. And the reason I like it is because I also like someone named Rumi. If you've heard of Rumi, the Sufi mystic, he wrote poetry, you know, sort of 400 or 500 years ago, and he writes this song called I don't like the Welcome House or something like that. And that's kind of what we are, like a welcome house. But he says, welcome every sorrow, every sadness, every despairing moment. Welcome it with joy. And think of it as being good for you, and sent to you from above as a guest. It's called the guest house, that's it. And so, you know, a lot of times when bad things come our way, we fight against it and we're like in quicksand. And the more you fight against it, the deeper you sink. And so this song by Akira the Don is about accepting everything that comes your way as being good. And I think during the coronavirus, it's a hard thing to do, but we've got to always look for the silver lining in that, you know, with those clouds. And so, yeah.
Yes, we do. And a better day for us all. But at least we have the wonder of this technology, which has allowed us to have this wonderful interview, Scott. And you'll find Scott's lists in the links that we put up. Do listen to them. And would you like to close the interview for us, Scott? Do you have any closing words?
Sure. It's really great to be here with you guys. And I think what you're doing is wonderful. And I think it's all about the beloved community, as Martin Luther King used to say, and the support that we give each other. And so thank you for your support and your love and care for our community.
Absolutely, and we do send all our love to all of you there, and let's look forward to a better day. And thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Alan.
Bye-bye.